Hello and welcome. In our previous modules, we looked at the definition, that is the introduction to business intelligence. Then we also looked at data modeling. We have not completed our introduction without covering data modeling, especially in SQL. SQL is one of the most used databases. Let us look at simple introduction to SQL by covering SQL database basics. And pardon me, I pronounce SQL as SQL, while most of people will pronounce this as SQL. Let's move in and try to define what is SQL and understand what it means. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It's a database system that's used to storing and managing data in relation database management system. It is the standard language for the relation database management systems. SQL language allows us to create, read, update, and delete relational databases and tables. All of the relational database management systems like MySQL, Informix, Oracle, Microsoft Access, and SQL Server use SQL as the standard database language. SQL allows users to query the database in a number of ways using English-like statements. In our examples, we learned that SQL uses simple language. Unlike other programming languages, the language is simple and direct to the point, using specific clauses and statements that enables the user to query the database and get the intended outcome, that is the intended result. Some of the key rules that are used in SQL are the language is not case sensitive, that is we can use both capital letters and small letters, but it's generally acceptable to use the uppercase for the SQL keywords. Note also that statements of the SQL are dependent on the next line. We can use a single SQL statement on one or multiple lines. And using SQL statements, you can perform most of the actions in the database. That is, we can use, instead of using the graphical interface, we can use the SQL statements to review the data, analyze the data, and generate any data we are interested in. And finally, SQL depends on tuple relational calculus and relational algebra. Look at what is SQL process. When an SQL command is executed for any database system, then the system figures out the best way to carry out the request, and the SQL engine determines that how to interpret the task. In the process, various components are included. These components can be optimization engine, query engine, query dispatchers, classic, and etc. That is, there are several components that are used in running commands and querying the databases. All the non-SQL queries are handled by the classic engine because the SQL query engine cannot handle these logic files. And this is the simple process illustrated in this case. We have the SQL query. That is the question we want to ask the database. This is forwarded to the query language processor, where it's parsed and optimized. Then it's passed to the database management system. That is the files and the transaction manager. And this is then passed to the physical database, where the query is interpreted and the outcome, the feedback given to the user. The advantages of using the SQL language is it's high speed, no advanced coding is required. It has well-defined standards. It's portable, that is, can be used from different machines and computer, as long as data file system is the same, and it is interactive. That is, when you query the database, you get the answer you are looking for, and has multiple data views. We can view the data in what we call tables. We can also view them in reports and view them in what we call views. We'll look at this later on. SQL commands are instructions, and they are used to communicate with the database and can also be used to perform specific tasks, functions, and query the dataset. SQL can perform various tasks such as creation of tables, addition of data into the tables, deleting or dropping of data from these tables, modifying the tables, and setting permissions for the users of the database. And we have different types of database, that is SQL commands. We have 5 types of SQL commands that are data definition language, data manipulation language, data control language, transaction control language, and data querying language. And under the DDL, that is data definition language, we have creation of tables, dropping of tables, altering of these tables, and truncating these tables. Then we have data management language, data manipulation language. That is, we have commands such as insert, update, and delete. We have data control language. These are mainly used to give users access, and they include a grant and revoke permission. We have transaction control language. Under this, we have commit, we have rollback, and we have save point. And data query language, we have select. And note that we have more commands than these, but these are basically the mainly used. Under data definition language, the DDL changes the structure of the table, like creating a new table, deleting an existing table, altering an existing table, or dropping an existing table. All the commands of DDL auto committed. That means it permanently saves all the changes in the database. As some of the commands, we have create, alter, drop, and truncate. And for example, the create command is used to create a new table in the database. In this case, we can use create. That is, the syntax is create. You name the table, you create, define that you want to create a table, then include the table name and the columns that will be used and their specification. And here is an example. We want to create a table. The table name is employee, and the information in that table will be name of the employee, which will have string entry. Then we have email, which is also string entry, and date of birth, which will be data type. Then we have another example of data definition language, that is the drop command, and it's used to delete both the structure and record stored in the table. And it's mainly, the syntax is you just specify you want to drop and the table. And example is drop table. Then the table name is employee. The table we just created above. And let's move forward to another data definition language, that is alter. Similarly, this is used to alter and change the structure and characteristics of a table. We also have another truncate. It's used to delete all the rows from the table and free the space containing the table. And is generally used just like the other DDL commands. Then next we have the data manipulation language. The DML commands are used to modify the database. It is responsible for all form of changes in the database. The commands of the DML is not auto-committed. This means that they are not permanently saved when implemented. Some of these commands include insert, update, and delete. And the insert is used to insert new information into a table, and the syntax is insert, then into, then table name, and the information you want to Then the columns, that is column 1, column 2, column 3, to the last column, and then you specify the values. This can also be done this way. And an example is insert into a table named XYZ, the author, then the subject. Our values are Sono for the author, and the subject is DBMS. Next, we have the update command. This is also a DML command, and the syntax is shown. An example is update students, set user to know where the ID is equals to 3. This is updating the data entry in this case. Then we have data control language, DCL. These are commands that are used to grant and take back authority from any database users. Let's move to transaction control language. These are commands that we use with DML, commands like insert, delete, and update. These operations are automatically committed in the database. That's why they cannot be used while creating tables or dropping them. Some of these commands include commit, rollback, and save point. And this is the syntax and example of deleting a record from the customers table. Finally, we have the data query language. The DQL is used to fetch the data from the database. It uses only one command, that is select. The select command is the same as the projection operation of relational algebra. It is used to select the attributes based on the condition described by where clause. The syntax is you enter the select command and the expression determine the table that is from, and the condition is defined by the where clause. An example is when we want to select employee name from the employee table where the age is more than 25 years old. There are various types of SQL operators, and the main SQL operators are arithmetic operators, comparison operators, and logical operators.